Are you ready? Because it's time to jump into the world of Pokemon! Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are an utter catastrophe, and even if you love them, I think we can all agree the games were rushed. I think maybe Game Freak needed more time. Just maybe. Now, before I start tearing into them, let me just say that I'm a massive Pokemon fan. As you can see, despising these games brings me no joy, and as a massive Pokemon fan, my standards for this franchise continue to get lower every single year. But that doesn't matter because I've been indoctrinated into this religion since the 90s, and I'm willing to overlook massive flaws in game design simply for nostalgia and that familiar sense of dopamine. I put Pokemon stickers on my dresser when I was like 5, and here they are, in Scarlet and Violet. I have shoe boxes filled with cards. This Burger King Kids Meal poster from 1999. Why do I have that? I still play Pokemon Go, okay? Here's a picture of me in a restaurant playing Blue version. Have you ever seen a happier kid? I played every generation besides Black and White 2 and X and Y. And I can safely say that Scarlet and Violet are unequivocally the worst Pokemon games I've ever played. It's okay to like these games. I question your taste, but it's okay to like them, but please don't defend it, because you deserve better. The reason I say all this is because the Pokemon fanbase is rabid and irrational. I know this because I am rabid and irrational, and any criticism, any attack on a Pokemon game is like an affront to their childhood. But a lot of people don't seem to realize just how neutered the Pokemon formula has become, and that's what I'm here to do. Well, since I'm going to be super negative in this video, let's start with the few positives. Character models are unique looking, the Pokemon themselves look pretty good, animations are alright, and the core gameplay still has the same appeal it always has. The game can be fun. It's always exciting to see and catch new Pokemon. At the very least, I can say that. There are a few new mechanics that make open world gameplay and exploration slightly more intuitive and fun. Auto battles and TM crafting is a cool concept. There's raids and other activities. Scarlet and Violet take off the training wheels pretty fast, and then gives you plenty of freedom in exploring the world, with 3 main quests you can do in any order. Surprisingly, I think all the new Pokemon introduced are fantastic. Terastallizing is a unique gimmick that lets you change up the type of your Pokemon. Battling itself is still a lot of fun. That's about all the good I can say. But before we jump into the bad, do you want to make your friends jealous? Looking to spice up your home, your man cave, or your gaming headquarters? Look no further than Displate, the sponsor of today's video. These are special types of metallic posters, made with solid materials, and the website has thousands upon thousands of different designs, ranging from anime, technology, video games, movies. If you got a favorite video game or show, they got a poster of it. They're very easy to stick to your wall. Just wipe down the surface, hold down the sticker for 10 seconds, do the same with the magnet, and just fucking beautiful. Not to mention you can customize the finish or add a nice frame to each poster. And since it's the holiday season, I'm offering you a special discount if you use my personal link. Order 1 to 2 posters, I'll give you 20% off. 3 or more, 33% off. That's a screamer of a deal. On these posters, it'll save me $58. And any Displates you order will help out the channel. So go order some right now. Click the links in the description and pin comment. Give your home a little pizzazz and display yourself with Displate. And thank you for sponsoring this video. You probably think my first instinct is to grab the low-hanging fruit and make fun of the game's utter insanity of glitches, the horrific graphics and piss-poor performance. But you would be wrong! That's too easy. Instead, let's start with what most Pokemon fans seem to be completely overlooking when they appraise this game: the world of Pokemon. It's the first thing Professor Oak says to you in the original games, and in Scarlet and Violet they say something similar. It's time for you too to dive into the world of Pokemon. These games are about the world and they always have been. If battling is all that matters, then what's the point of making this an open world game? Now, Pokemon has never excelled at graphics. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah, the game looks and runs like shit, but even if it didn't, you'd still be running around the same lifeless, empty, boring, soulless, poorly rendered grass fields that stretch on for eternity. The areas of Paldea are the most generic and uninspired I've seen in a Pokemon game. You got grass fields, dirt paths, some cliffs, the occasional beach, there's the gigantic city of Mesagoza, and some small towns that all look the same. The only landmark I've seen in Scarlet and Violet is a windmill that runs at 2 frames per second. The starting area of Sword and Shield had more visual variety than anything I've seen in 20 hours playing Scarlet and Violet. You want the difference in these two games summed up in one image? Here it is. Pokemon rarely impressed with its visuals, but it always impressed when it came to style and the wide variety of biomes and unique areas that made exploration fresh. And the Pokemon in those areas would fit a theme. You'd encounter fire Pokemon in warm areas such as deserts. It was exciting arriving at a new route or entering a dungeon, a mossy cave, a hideout, or whatever. These games had ruins, power plants, graveyards, ancient towers dedicated to legendary Pokemon, underwater caverns with water flowing through them, and remember climbing Mount Chimney as you went to stop a gang war atop a fucking volcano? You had hideouts, giant boats, shopping malls, martial arts dojos, forests. What does Scarlet and Violet have? Well, I went to this one town and some guy was like, bet you can't make it to the end of our world famous hedge maze. Okay. I made it. What's in the middle? Nothing. What fantastic open world design. Would you believe this area is one of the more memorable in Scarlet and Violet? I climbed a tower and found a Gimme Ghost Pokemon. That was the most interesting thing I've seen in Paldea. Like I said, visually the world makes you want to claw your eyes out, but worse yet, it has no style, no grace. This game has a funny face. Even Sword and Shield had a unique aesthetic with its British-inspired buildings, castles, and architecture. There is nothing of interest in the open world. No sense of discovery or thrill besides encountering different Pokemon, which is the bare minimum you expect from a fucking Pokemon game. Items and TMs are scattered around at complete random with no thought required to get them. Unfortunately, level design is no longer a feature of Pokemon games. That idea has been tossed out completely. Remember all the cool puzzles in previous games that required HMs or certain moves to progress through? Remember that surfing minigame in Sun and Moon? Or the trick room? Or how trainers were strategically set up along paths to make traversal interesting and force players to make a decision like, do I go this way and avoid that guy, or do I fight him to go get this item? You had choices. Remember how trainers would, wander and look around for a fight? They'd be on bikes or fishing at a pond or doing something instead of just standing there menacingly. Remember how some trainers would camouflage themselves in snow or ash and get the jump on you? Remember dual trainer battles? Now it seems like every trainer in Scarlet and Violet is just standing in a random location doing nothing. Like they couldn't be bothered to program a basic walk cycle.
Are you just gonna stand there like a lemon?
And they wait for you to initiate battle by talking to them. It's not exciting. As far as I've seen, there are almost no traditional linear type levels to break up the monotony of the open world. Any linear levels they do have are fucking laughable. Like you go to a Team Star hideout, you walk in an open field, watch Pokemon appear out of thin air, hit R to auto battle, do that 30 times, then fight the leader and that's it. I'm really scratching my noggin on that one. Or how about the gyms? Those have got to be good at least. They're always a major highlight of these games. The Bug Gym, if you can even call it that, is just a flat field with a giant olive and some fences. And you push the olive to the end of the track in a sequence that can only be described as jank AF. You do that and then go somewhere else to fight the gym leader. Is this the best they could come up with? I love at the olive test, there's this person that wants you to battle them for a shortcut when the battle will inevitably take longer than just going the normal route. The gyms in Sword and Shield were simple and easy, but they had something of substance. Certainly doesn't hold a candle to the Trials in Sun and Moon. I mean, these gyms are just fucking terrible. It's pitiful. The map screen is utter dog shit too. Anytime you pull it out, it seems to auto-rotate, causing you to constantly lose track of where you are going. In open world games, you've probably gotten accustomed to being able to put down multiple markers to keep track of things you want to go back to, but not in Scarlet and Violet. You get one marker, and that's it. And what are these icons?
What do they mean?
Seems like a massive oversight to not include a legend. I mean, every map has a legend so you know what the symbols are. Before launch, Game Freak boasted about the giant city of Mesagoza and the school academy, but you can't really explore the areas of Paldea like any other Pokemon game. You are only allowed to enter a few specific buildings. Most consist of a single room. Almost all shops have been turned into a menu screen. You can no longer break into people's houses, talk to them, and steal their stuff. Pokemon centers are just desks now. There's very clear technical limitations being imposed, like the school being a series of segmented areas that you warp to through a loading screen instead of walk to. Imagine making a school without hallways and lockers. It's just bizarre. But the game likely can't render that sort of thing without having a seizure. You know what would have been impressive? If they let you move through doors in areas without having to load to a new screen. One of the big highlights for Pokemon games was arriving at a new area, checking out all the buildings, talking to NPCs, seeing what they'd say, or if they had a side quest for you, maybe a special item, or a Pokemon to trade. Rarely do you encounter NPCs in Scarlet and Violet that provide something of value to the gameplay or the world itself. I don't have reasons to explore the worlds when the towns feel so lifeless and I can't go anywhere. So in exchange for puzzles, dungeons, unique level design, interesting locales, a dynamic open world, what have we gotten in exchange for all of that? A world where every city has 15 sandwich shops. This is one of Pokemon's main quest lines, and I'm astonished at how much the game is centered around working at fucking Subway. The people that defend this game and its open world have no further ambitions than the developers, and that makes me sad. It all looks the same. It's lifeless, soulless, commercial diarrhea passed off as a poor excuse for an open world. And if you still think the world is awesome and you love Paldea, then describe it. Describe it to me. Tell me what makes it special or unique. Pause the video, write up a clever comment.
You gonna say something clever? Go on, say something clever.
Because I'm fucking dying to know what is so impressive about this. Pokemon is a franchise that has changed less than Call of Duty over a lifespan 10 years longer than Call of Duty. Now, Pokemon's formula has always made it one of the best, most accessible turn-based games out there, but it's been held back by outdated design choices. These games have wasted and continue to waste my fucking time. No one is talking about waiting seconds in between little actions. I can accept the frame rate drops, the camera flipping out, the textures and visual glitches, but damn, is it a slog to do anything? Everything that should be snappy like menus, dialogue, and battles feels super slow. Then add on the actual performance issues that slow the game down and it becomes a sloth simulator. I remember feeling this way back in Diamond and Pearl. I came up with this cool strategy for Abomasnow where I'd use Ingrain, Leftovers, and Hail, so I'd heal consistently and do damage over time. I soon stopped using this strategy because of how many fucking text boxes would appear and interrupt the game. This should have been changed in Gen 4. We are at Gen 9. Venonat became confused. Venonat is confused. Venonat hurt itself in its confusion. I know what confusion does. I know what the status effects do. We all do. You don't have to stop the gameplay for 3 seconds each time to tell me. As soon as the animation is finished, it should bring up the UI, or let me skip this crap with a setting or a toggle or something. But going through each and every single turn waiting for the text to pop up is just boring as hell. That Cloth Pokemon has an ability that raises 3 stats and lowers 2. The game stops 5 times to play each stat change individually. Every single time, Cloth is reduced to half health. I'm never going to use this Pokemon. What's the issue with them all going at once? This series is well established. It's actually the most established franchise. Everyone knows how the games work. Selecting Pokemon takes like 3 seconds for them to appear instead of being instant. Using potions and revives is still done one at a time. These things wouldn't bother me so much if it weren't for my next issue with Scarlet and Violet. Game Freak is notorious for cutting features that quite literally only provide positive benefits to the game and its fan base. Skipping battle animations, for example. You want to try speedrunning the game? Well, here you go. It's a feature so simple that it worked on the Game Boy. This feature has been cut from Scarlet and Violet. As to why, this Reddit user has an explanation. Honestly, with how shit the performance is and all the bugs, I'm almost certain they removed it to hide the delay between every action and animation. This makes sense to me, and perhaps it's not a coincidence that this is the first main entry to remove this quality of life feature. We can't have a national dex anymore because, Game Freak wanted to make the animations better.
Meanwhile...
Set selection. In past games, this was a simple setting for convenience and difficulty, allowing you to skip the option of swapping Pokemon when your opponent sent out a new one. This feature is also gone for no discernible reason. It's clear that Scarlet and Violet are Game Freak's way of trying to bring ambition to Pokemon and raise the bar, but their current development cycle isn't suited for this type of game. Clearly, and they have to make massive cuts in every category just to make it barely functional. The funniest part, Pokemon is a shadow of what it once was, and it's never been more successful. And you thought I was just here to complain about the graphics, visuals, poor performance, ridiculous glitches, and pop-in. You think so little of me. This game is remarkably unpolished, glitchy. All those clips of people contorting and twisting and clapping their elbows and all that weird shit, I haven't experienced that much myself. That happens in co-op, but you will be hard-pressed to find many games uglier than this. My eyes! My eyes! This is close to PUBG on Xbox One. We're arriving at Cyberpunk at release and Fallout 76 tiers of awfulness. Now, people are going to try to say again that graphics aren't everything and they never have been for Pokemon. You would be right in saying this. However, I find it hard to enjoy any game if I can barely fucking look at it. There's this part in the beginning where you get to the top of a lighthouse and your generic rival is like, wow, isn't it pretty? And then they show this. Yes, it's pretty. It's pretty fucking ugly. This is an open world game where the open world is never fully rendered. No matter where you are, something is glitching out, popping in, or it's textured like an N64. This game can barely run, and we know it's not the hardware because, as many have pointed out, Breath of the Wild was a launch title for the Switch, and we've seen games like Xenoblade Chronicles, which look pretty damn good. The Switch is a weak platform, but that's what some developers can make of it. The pop-in is ridiculous. People in the same room will morph into existence if you step 5 feet from them. NPCs that get stuck in their walking cycle evaporate like Sirius Black. They just disappear. Like, there's always something flickering on the screen. Textures are pathetically bad with repeated low-quality patterns. Just look at this, Cliff. Super Mario Sunshine looked better than this, and that was a title from 2002 on a fucking GameCube. Lighting changes abruptly all the time. You walk into a cave and pop. It seems like the game's internal clock, its day and night cycle, doesn't get updated until the end of a battle. So if you fight a really long one, it'll just whoop. You can also get a good idea of how long a game was play tested by how easy and often you can break out of it. No doubt you've seen that wild footage of people just phasing through the bottom of the map or jumping on something and getting stuck and then black screened. I also noticed they haven't figured out stair technology yet. Wait, hold up. Is there an invisible wall here? Are you serious? Wait, what's blocking me? It's wide open. Dude, what the fuck is that? Oh, that's why. Apparently one of Koraidon's moves creates an invisible barrier that stretches across the whole zone. Frame rate? God, it's awful. Any distant objects are rendered at like 7 frames a second. Sometimes they completely stop moving. It runs at a consistent below 30, and only in specific enclosed areas does it barely hit 30 frames per second. NPCs in Pokemon run at reduced frame rate when at a distance, and normally that's done to preserve performance. but a good game doesn't make it noticeable. This is noticeable. How would you like it if I just conducted the rest of the video at 3 frames per second? Wouldn't that be an enjoyable experience? Every technique has been used and every corner cut to optimize for performance, and yet the game still runs like trash. I don't understand. Shadows barely exist in this world. You never notice how unnatural something looks when it doesn't have a shadow? Like this area that is blue despite the sun being out. The sun doesn't cast light in this game, it's so bizarre. What's with this door that keeps changing colors when I approach it? Why do cliffs get distorted when I run towards them? Scarlet and Violet are similar to Cyberpunk in the sense that you can never immerse yourself in the world because of how distracting and obtrusive the visuals are. If you really want a great video to break this down, I'd say watch this one from Digital Foundry. Adding on to the ugly factor, Game Freak has clearly forgotten how to make a functional camera work in a 3D space. They figured out how to do this on N64 hardware, but they get a pass here. While it's cool that battles can take place literally anywhere, the camera often has no idea where it should be, creating fights where you and your Pokemon are barely visible, if at all, or sometimes Pokemon are just falling off cliffs, or they clip through the geometry, walking up to shops and you just phase through the door and the screen turns to mush. It's like, what the fuck am I looking at? If you walk around a tight enclosed area like a place with a lot of cliffs or this playground, it's so disorienting. I remember Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 having more dynamic cinematography that showed off the Pokemon as they used their moves and took damage. You know, it would zoom around the battlefield and zoom in on the Pokemon, and this one, it's just a static shot. It made fights more interesting to watch. Cutscenes in this game are unacceptable. As with every other aspect of the game, Game Freak is as lazy here as they possibly could be. It is insulting how often they use transitions to hide sequences that they clearly didn't bother to animate. Like this one, where Koraidon yells, the ground starts shaking, and this presumably causes the cliff to break and the player falls, but like, after you fall, there's no rubble there, and the camera just awkwardly zooms in on the ground before fading to black. Like, there's no sense of urgency. You couldn't make this scene any less exciting if you tried. And what the fuck was that? He just hits the ground, bounces up, and grabs his phone? And you gotta love how there's a fade to white effect anytime Koraidon or a Pokemon comes out of its Pokeball. Because again, they don't want to animate that. By far the worst is this scene where you're talking to some lady on a television screen, and I shit you not, it fades to black 7 times. Probably because the game has to reload the area each time, and the black screen is a loading screen. At best, it is horrifically incompetent. There is no artistry. There is no passion for storytelling. Anytime there's a crossfade transition, it freezes for a second or two and looks terrible. What if I did that for all of my videos? For every transition, it just like froze for 1 second until the next shot. The lack of voice acting is extremely awkward because it means they have to have music blaring over every cutscene. Otherwise, it's just silence. They couldn't even be bothered to do like what Breath of the Wild and Banjo-Kazooie do, like characters that make little noises or grunts. They animated as little as they possibly could and slapped a transition on everything else. So, in conclusion, Scarlet and Violet are a disgrace. These games are an embarrassment. Game Freak and the Pokemon Company should be ashamed for releasing something this terrible so quickly after Arceus. But thank you all for watching, hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, and subscribe to the Act Man for more awesome content. Make sure to check out Display and order some new metallic posters to display yourself. Follow me on Twitter for memes, follow me on Instagram for awful pictures, follow me on Twitch for live streams. Alright everyone, that's all I got for today. This is the Act Man signing out. Peace!